What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Saris here, and today I'm bringing you guys once again another Smite God Guide, and this guide will be for Anubis, the Egyptian god of the dead. Anubis is a ranged mage caster who has insane burst as well as a single target stun to help defeat his enemies. We're going to be talking just a little bit here about Anubis's passive ability as well as his activated skills. First up, we have Sorrow. All of Anubis' abilities reduce the enemy's magical protection by 12 for 3 seconds. That's pretty nice. You obviously are going to be buffing yourself with that. The more abilities that you hit players with, the more you're going to drop their magic defense. This will also help you if you're laning with another mage or during team fight phases, all that kind of good stuff. You'll be, helping yourself out as well as your teammates, especially the ones that do magic damage, of course. Alright, for his number one, or his first activated ability, which is Plague of Locusts. A Plague of Locusts bellows forth from Anubis' mouth, smothering all enemies in the area and doing 95+% of your magical damage every 0.5 seconds for 3 seconds. And that is this cone right here. I'll show you guys just a second. He just basically, just like that, sprays a bunch of locusts out. This is a cone AoE and does a lot of damage. Okay, next up, his number two is Mummify. Anubis fires a bandage projectile, mummifying his target for 2 seconds. That's what this looks like. It's just a very fast-moving projectile that, it can be difficult to hit at times, especially if a player, which if they're smart, they will realize, that you're Anubis and that you could potentially try and stun them, so they're going to try and get out of it. So, you have to learn how to lead this, all that kind of good stuff. But this is just what it looks like that right there. Stuns them for 2 seconds. All right, and his third activated ability is Grasping Hands. Anubis calls for help from the underworld as hands penetrate the ground and claw at his enemies, doing 70% of your magical damage every 0.5 seconds and slowing the enemies by 30% for 2 seconds. So, this is just a big circle, a placeable, you can move it around, AoE, like this. You can kind of put it back there, up here, however you want to do it, like that. It's a slow, and it does magical damage over time. Alright, now let's take a look at his ultimate ability, or his number 4 activated ability, which is Death Gaze. Anubis focuses all of his energy into a piercing gaze, doing 100+% of your magical damage to all enemies in the path up to 70 feet away every 0.3 seconds for 3 seconds. Now this is the Slayer of Gods. Like this thing right here, if you see Anubis doing this and you're not a tank, boy, you better watch your butt, because things are going to happen, things are going to die. It's not going to be a good time for you, unless you're the one playing the Anubis, in which case it'll be a very good time for you. But I'll show you guys what that looks like here in just a second. It kind of starts upward, and then it starts at his eyes and pierces down towards the ground, and it goes 70 feet apparently. So let's see if we can get this Manticore in a stun real quick, just so I can give you guys, if I don't die here, actually. Alright, there it is. That's the ultimate. Just that piercing gaze. You can see the green sort of lights. No, don't kill me. The green lasers coming from his eyes. That's Death Gaze. And that does a whole lot of damage. Alright, now that we've looked at all the skills that Anubis has to offer, I'm just going to kind of let you guys know the order in which that I level up the skills. Now, when the first skill I take is his 3, which is Grasping Hands. After that, I take 1 point in Plague of Locusts. And notice I don't grab the stun at level 1 or level 2. So be sure to play it fairly passively to start with. If you're midding, you'll get to level 3 pretty quick. It won't matter all that much, but just know that with that, you're going to be a little bit more susceptible to a possible gank or whatever if you don't have that stun. So at level 3, I do grab the stun, and then after that, I alternate between the 3 and the 1, which would be the Grasping Hands and the Plague of Locusts. Now, of course, that doesn't count his ultimate. His ultimate is always the top priority. That's your big damage dealer. That's the one that you're going to want to make sure that you level up whenever possible. So the priority essentially is we're going to max our 4 whenever possible. Other than that, we're going to go back and forth between the Grasping Hands and the Plague of Locusts, and then we're going to throw the rest of them into the stun at the end. Alright, now we're going to be talking about a little bit about the item build that I choose for Anubis and the way that I like to build him. Now, a little disclaimer to start off with. Now, not everyone likes the same build. People prefer to play gods totally differently, which is totally understandable, but just know that this is how I choose to play Anubis, and it tends to work out very well for me, so this is how I do it. Now, to start off with, what I generally do, going mid lane most of the time, because this is kind of what this guide is for. Generally, a lot of times Anubis will go mid lane. Now, if not, you can try and go with another caster, as I mentioned previously. But for the most part, this stuff will stay the same. I'm going to start off with 1 Boots of the Magi and 1 Obsidian Shard, as well as 1 Health Potion. Now this allows us to have some mana regen and still be able to do some decent damage to start off with, because we do have that magical penetration from the Obsidian Shard. And essentially overall, this is what my build will look like. I bought 1 point in each item just to show you guys what my build actually does look like. So after that, I'm going to focus on maxing out the Obsidian Shard as well as the Boots of the Magi. Once I finish the Boots of the Magi and the Obsidian Shard up to level 3, I'm going to go ahead and start working on Gem of Isolation. I'm going to be trying to build that all the way up. This is very helpful as the passive effect. You have the enemies hit by your abilities will move 35% slower for 2 seconds. That is very powerful. You already have your Grasping Hands, which slows down an enemy. Or any enemies that happen to be in it, but this will also make it so your Locust will be slowing enemies down, and your ultimate, which this is very important because Anubis' ultimate can be difficult to aim as well as very easy to avoid, especially if you're running away from him, just because it has a limited range and the way you have to kind of move to aim it up. It just, it can be sometimes difficult to keep them in your line of sights as far as that goes. Gem of Isolation goes a long way to help you deal with that situation. And also the defensive item that I choose, it's a very powerful defensive item, I think. Hide of Leviathan. It gives you physical protection, magical protection, health, and mana. So you get the whole kit and caboodle with 1 item slot. Now, generally, I play Anubis as a squishy champion, a squishy god, which he is a squishy god. You just have to know how to go about playing him to do it this way. Now, some people may want to build him a little bit tankier, but this is my sort of glass cannon-ish build, except that I do get to hide the Leviathan. Now, depending on if you're just getting destroyed, you've picked up some deaths and you want to make sure that you can survive a little longer. Maybe you're new to playing Anubis. That's understandable, of course, because every new god that you're going to try, there's going to be difficulties, getting to know them, their abilities, their strengths and weaknesses, and all that kind of good stuff. So, at any point in the build, you want to start throwing in Hide Leviathan in there, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly understandable, especially, like I said, if you're newer to playing Anubis, which if you're watching a guide on Anubis, you probably are, because if you're a pro, then hey, why would we be watching a guide? But anyway, so that was my little rant on that. So that can be thrown in at any point. I generally get it later on in the game. That's why I have it over here on the 6th slot. But you can get it wherever you see fit, as well as if you say you're laning against a magical carry and you've fed a few times and you're thinking that they're going to be the major issue and they don't have much physical damage, go right ahead and grab some sort of magic protection item, something like that. That's perfectly fine as well. If you don't think the armor would help you much, that's fine too. But that's just kind of my defensive item slot. And generally, all things being equal, I'll go with the Hide of Leviathan just because it gives you a little bit of everything. Alright, now, we've got our gem, we've got our boots, and we've got our Obsidian Shard here. Next, we're going to go into the Book of Thoth, which is just a great overall mage item. You've got your magical power, your mana, and your MP5. Now, when you get it up to 3 stacks, it's just going to be a massive amount of magical power. That's 100. And that's just a lot of magical power. I mean, what's not to like about that when you're Anubis and your burst is quite insane, and that's what your role is in team fights, is to be able to burst down like insanely fast. You blow all your stuff and pick up some kills and weaken a few enemies to as much as possible. All right, moving on. Rod of Tahuti, again, the same situation as the Book of Thoth. It's just going to give you a tremendous amount of magical power. 125 magical power. You've got some MP5, but the big kicker on this is the passive, which increases magical power by 25%. Now imagine, you've got whatever, a couple hundred, at least by now, 200-300 magical power, and you add 125 to that, and then you take an extra 25% of all your magical power added up, and that's what that this is going to give you, the rod. So that's why that item is very important on mages. I get it on most all my mages, especially the ones that I get that I build more of a glass cannon style of build. So then the last slot, as I already mentioned, is the defensive item, which, all things being equal as far as other team goes, would be the Hide Leviathan. Now, going over abilities, I think one of the most underrated items, and I think it's not nearly as underrated as it used to be, one of the most underrated skills that you can buy is Heavenly Agility. It's a 35% sprint on a 60-second cooldown, and it's an AoE sprint, so you can use it to initiate team fights or to run away or anything like that. But the good thing is that you can give that same sprint to the rest of your team, so it's quite nice. Other than that, you are a very squishy god, and the way I build him, he does not get very tanky, so I get the Aegis Amulet. Using this item causes you invulnerable to all damage for 2 seconds. However, you're unable to move or take action during this time. So that's just something, to help you possibly get out of trouble. If you're getting focused down, you can try and pop that and hope that your teammates can save you at some point in there. Maybe I don't know, you'll make a good escape or whatever, but maybe they'll move on to someone else, start focusing them. And then the last item slot is kind of up for debate. Sometimes, I don't know, if you finish your build, a lot of times the games are going to end before you finish your build anyway, so I don't really normally end up getting 3 items. You can get Girdle of Might, which just gives you, it's like a steroid, it gives you plus 20 physical and magical damage for 10 seconds. You also can get the other sprint, which is just a single sprint that lasts longer, but it's on a longer cooldown. You got purification beads. If they have a lot of disables and just using your Aegis Amulet isn't enough, you can also get the purification beads for that little bit of extra way to get out of enemy disables. Alright guys, now we're going to talk a little bit about practical gameplay and using your skills and abilities to your advantage while you're laning and while you're going for a kill and all this kind of great stuff. Now to start with, when you're at lower levels, you're just going to want to pop down your grasping hands as much as your mana can allow. Try to get your enemy lane your enemy lane god into the 3, because it does slow them, and so you can get a decent amount of damage, but just watch out for the creeps turning on you and attacking you. Now once you get let's say you're level 3, now for the most part before you're level 5, you're going to want to be fairly passive, maybe pop down your 3 and kind of get out of there, do a little bit of damage. If you're feeling brave, you can also try and get in there and pop your 1 off. But for the most part, you're not going to be able to secure a kill, but you can do a lot of damage from level 3 by popping down your 3, then stunning, and then hitting them with your Locust. Now, this is the order I generally choose to do it. You can also go for a stun, then put your 3 down, but what I don't like about that is the reaction time, that if you stun, you have to then say, okay, did I stun or did I miss? Okay, I stunned. Now I can put my 3 down. So on the good side, though, if you miss your stun, you don't waste the 3 skill, but if you hit it, there's going to be a little bit less damage done because of the reaction time. They're going to be able to get out of it a little bit quicker. So generally what I do is try and place them right in the middle of my 3, hit them with the stun, and then at that point, I can go ahead and decide if I want to retreat or do I want to hit them with my Plague of Locusts. Now, if I hit them with my Plague of Locusts, it's going to do a lot of damage, but then you have to start worrying about, creeps. But something like this, like that, and you're not going to get a kill generally. Now, the only reason I did so much damage is just because I've been whomping on creeps a lot here, and I've gotten a lot of gold and all that kind of stuff. But normally, you wouldn't do that much damage. but what you would do is, you know, take them down maybe to half or something like that. But you want to keep that damage on them, and don't, you know, they're going to have pots and everything like that most likely, but just let them, you know, think that they're okay, but keep them semi-low, if you kind of catch my drift. And then once you hit level 5 and above, you're going to be going for the ultimate Anubis burst combo, which, how I do, like I said, you can stun first, but what I like to do is put the 3 down, then stun, then go for your ultimate, which is your death gaze. Now, it's going to look something like this. I'm going to let this creep wave push just so that way, because I am squishy, I don't want to get hit by the Phoenix necessarily. But you can just be la-da-da-da-da, not really, you know, just kind of hitting creeps, okay? And you come up, boom, boom, boom. Just like that, you put down your 3, you stun them in the 3, and then immediately pop your ultimate. Don't waste time with your Plague of Locusts, because with your Plague of Locusts, you will, you know, it does a lot of damage too, but by that time, they're most likely going to be retreating, and you're going to pop your ultimate, but it's going to be too late because they're going to be running away. So that is that combo right there. If you can put a little preliminary damage down, like I was saying with your other combos, that combo right there is going to kill almost any god that isn't like far levels above you or have a tremendous amount of magic resist. That's just an unbelievable amount of burst going down. If they do manage to survive, they're going to be hurting severely bad and most likely have to back. So it's just a real insane amount of burst. And so if you were going to go, let's see what I would do. If I put down my 3, then I stun, and then I do the Locust, then I go for the ultimate, which I have 10-second cooldown left on that. It just allows them to be able to escape, and you won't get as much damage with ult. You still probably, while here, I might still get the kill, but I have to get in a little bit closer and see, it just, you know, he wasn't able to escape, but he was able to get out of the area, taking less damage than when I just went straight for the ultimate. Now, in team fights, it's going to be a different situation. As Anubis, you are going to be very squishy, though, especially the way that I build Anubis. You're going to be squishy. So what you're going to want to do, you're not going to want to be on the forefront of any kind of team fight type of situation. You're going to want to be going in from the side. You know, if your teams are facing off in the middle lane, you might want to be kind of hanging out around in the jungle a little bit, like off to the side, waiting for things to erupt. You come in from the side, and you can either decide if you want to target someone specific, or you just want to plop down your AoE in the middle of them, try and get off a stun on one of their biggest damaging gods is the best way to do it. You know, so that way you'll be taken out of commission for a few seconds, as well as slowed inside your grasping hands. And at that point, you have to decide, do you want to stick around long enough and try and put out your cone AoE, or do you want to just go straight for the ultimate to go for a kill? If they're all clumped up, you can go for the Locust and really do just a lot of damage, as well as debuffing them, so that way your other mages can also do a lot of damage. If there's somebody that you really want to target specifically, you can go right into the ultimate. So you know, what you want to do is a little bit different, because in team fights, AoE damage is very devastating in this game. You know, you combine some of your stuff with a couple of Agni's ultimates and maybe, you know, who knows what, a Zeus or a Hebo ult or something like that. It's absolutely crazy, the AoE damage that can be done in this game. So putting down your 3 and then 1 can be quite devastating in a team fight situation. Now, don't get me wrong though, your ultimate Death Gaze can also be an AoE of sorts, as in that it can hit multiple targets at the same time. If they're in a line, the beam doesn't stop. The beam just keeps going for that 70 feet. So it can hit multiple gods and or creeps at the same time and do the same amount of damage to all of them and be just as devastating as if you were only hitting one target with it. One other thing to note about the Mummify, which is his number 2 spell, his stun, is it will go right through creeps to hit the target god. So if you do a situation like this, like there, you still get your stun off even though there's creeps in a way. Now this is, of course, something that you want to keep in mind, because it can allow you, you know, some abilities will hit creeps while some will not. So knowing this allows you to be able to stun in different situations that you might not have realized were possible before. Alright guys, I think that basically covers my guide for Anubis, the god of the dead. If you guys liked it, please give me a thumbs up, comment on it, let me know if there's anything, maybe a different way that you play Anubis. I'm open to all different types of play styles. I know that what I do is not always 100% the best possible way to do it. I have the way that I like to do it, and I know you guys probably have yours. So if you guys find something that works, I'm definitely not opposed to hearing about it. So drop me a comment if that's the case. If not, just subscribe, and I would appreciate it. And have a good day, and I'll catch you guys later.